flying away with a strong wind. When we arrived from Nova Scotia, midsummer, a caravan of dark-skinned workers, laughing and singing, traveling through their overgrown and rusting world, the local folks turned their backs, our presence a testament to their failure to prosper. The only time that place showed any joy at all was in the fall when the setting sun shone gold and the fields glowed under a glorious September sky. Among all that rust and decay stood Mr. Ellis's house. It was on the corner where Route 9 met the dirt road that led to the other side of the lake, the side without Indians, where the white people swam and picnicked on Sundays, their skin blistering under the weak Maine sun. At home, years later and before I left again, I remembered that house like it was a picture from a book or a magazine that you looked at when waiting at the bus station or the doctor's office. The tall maples hung over the driveway, and someone had planted a long, straight line of pine trees between the house and the dirt road that led to the camps, so we couldn't peek at it, not that we didn't try. Then why do they bother having a house at all if it's just going to be all windows? I asked my brother. People need a roof over their heads. It gets cold here just like home. But all those windows, I gaped. Windows are expensive. That's how they show the world they're rich. I nodded in agreement, even if I didn't understand exactly. The whiteness of that house, painted every second summer, with the red trim and 2 columns framing the front door, was enough for me, who lived in a tiny 3-bedroom with a leaky roof, to declare it the mansion. Years later, when I returned, Mr. Ellis, long dead of a heart attack, I had fresh eyes and realized it was nothing more than a 2-story with a bay window. When we arrived in mid-July, that summer we lost Ruthie, the fields were thick with green leaves and tiny wild berries. We were still full of excitement, the memories of hard work and long days from years past all but forgotten. My father dropped us off with the supplies we needed for the next 8 to 12 weeks, and then left again the same day. The dust followed him as he headed back to the border. He went to New Brunswick to grab the same pickers who always came, the ones he could trust, old Gerald and his wife, Julia, Hank and Bernard, twins who worked hard and stayed to themselves, widow Angus and her 6 children, all of them big and strong, and Frankie, the drunk. A funny man, scared of bears in the dark and not much of a worker. Dad always said, "Your mother says that even people like Frankie need money and a purpose in life, even if only for 8 weeks." "I pick more than him, Dad," I said, nodding my head at Frankie as he absent-mindedly plopped a berry into his mouth, "and he eats just as much as he picks." "There's some people, Joe, that we make allowances for. You know he nearly drowned as a baby and didn't quite grow up right after that. Nothing wrong with Frankie. God must have had a plan for him, so we take him just the way he is. He needs this each summer just like we do. He likes to come and sit around the fire and earn a bit of pocket change. Gives him something to look forward to." "Yeah, but Dad," I started to say, annoyed that Frankie got paid in money, and I picked more, and all I got were new school clothes in September. "No, bud. Just get back to work and be kind to Frankie. You never know when you might need kindness from people." While Dad was away, loading the additional pickers onto the back of the truck, we cleaned out the cabin and set up the camp under the watchful and exacting eye of our mother. "You boys pull out the grass growing through the porch floor. Tidy this place up a bit." We cut our hands pulling that grass that dared to grow in our absence. Then we collected dry wood for the fires, one for cooking, which was lit almost all the time, and one for cleaning dishes and, on weekends, our clothes. My sister May and some of the other girls helped clean the cabin, and a few went to the landlord's house like they did every summer to help his wife clean the house from top to bottom. They got a small amount of money for it, money they spent at the county fair in bobby pins, bootleg whiskey, and popcorn. We couldn't see the lake from our cabin, but we could from the outskirts of the camp, down where old Gerald and Julia had their tent. We were lucky to have a cabin with a roof, a door, and a few old mattresses to sleep on. Only a handful of us got to stay in the cabin. The others, including my 2 older brothers Ben and Charlie, slept in a tent, their backs to the hard ground, their jackets